Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to continue with solving systems of equations, and we're going to be using matrices, just like we did on inverse matrices. So today, we're just learning another way of using matrices to solve. So just like algebraically, we did substitution and elimination, there's another way to solve using a matrix. So it's called augmented matrices. So an augmented matrix represents a system of equations written in standard form. It includes the variable coefficients, which we already talked about that. That's the number in front of the variable in the first three columns, and then the constant is in the final column. So notice here there is just a little dotted line separating your coefficients and your constants. So it says the blank of a matrix indicates its size and structure. We've already talked about that. That are the dimensions. Remember, dimensions are your number of rows by the number of columns. So remember, that's how you find your dimensions. So it says rewrite the system of equations as an augmented matrix, then state its dimensions. So we're first going to fill in our coefficients. So that's 2, -9, -1. And we have 1, 1, and 1. There's a 4, a -3, and a -2. Now, we're not finished. We're going to draw a dotted line, so to separate it, and then we're putting in our constants, 41, 2, and 7. Remember, constants are your numbers without a variable. Okay, so notice here that when we look at our rows and columns, remember, rows are horizontal. There's 3, and then there are 4 columns. So this is a 3 by 4. So you'll have to know that in order to insert it into the calculator. All right, let's take a look at another one. So we're doing the same thing. This is an augmented matrix, just another way of solving. So we'll get to the solving later on. So coefficients, we have a 1, a -3, a -1. We have a 2, and then notice we are missing a y. So remember, if we're missing a variable, we have to put a 0 in that position. Remember, x is the first column, y is your second column, and then z is your third column, which would be a -1. And then we have a 1, 1, and -3. You're just drawing a dotted line to put your constants, 19, 2, and 11. So again, there's 3 rows, 4 columns, so this is a 3 by 4. Last one, you're doing the same exact thing. So we're setting up our coefficients, 1, -2, 1. Notice there's no x on the second equation, so 0, 1, 2. And then 2, -3, and then that z has a -1. Drawing your space between, putting your constants, 31, 12, and 29. Same as all the others, it's a 3 by 4. So that's how we set up an augmented matrix. We're going to be using that in order to solve. So looking at it, it says solving 3 by 3 systems using augmented matrices. So first thing you're going to do, we're going to be using a graphing calculator. We're going to align all the variables on the left side of the equation. You're going to write an augmented matrix, which we just learned how to do. You're going to enter the augmented matrix into your calculator. And then you're going to convert the augmented matrix to reduced row echelon form. So the calculator actually does this for you. So to get to, it's called RREF, so it's just abbreviating your reduced row echelon form. To get to that, you're going to do second matrix. You're going to go over to math, and we'll look at in just a second what number that is. So, and then we're going to write the equation. So we have our equation form, we have our augmented matrix, and then we're going to be given, this is going to be our answer that we get from the calculator. Now, notice that there's a 1, a 1, and a 1, but the rest are zeros, which means this is going to give me an x here because it's a 1. This is going to give me a y and then this is going to give me a z. So it actually tells you your solution x equals 1, y equals -5, and your z equals 6. So that would be your ordered triple. So it's not too difficult. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to write it as an augmented matrix, and then we're going to solve it. So first thing, we just went over this. Put your coefficients, 5, -6, -4, 3, 4, and 7, 9, -8, and -3. And then we're going to dot it, put our constants, and we're going to type that into the calculator. So let's go ahead and go to calculator. Remember, we go to second matrix, go over to edit. Now I'm going to go back up to, you can just tap up there. I'm going to go back up there, and this is a 3 by 4, so I need to type a 3 by 4, and then we're typing in our numbers. So I have 5, -6, -4, 10, and then I have 3, 4, 7, and 2, and then there's a 9, a -8, -3, and 18. Okay, so once we have plugged it into the calculator, we're going to go back to our home screen. So remember, we've already discussed this, second quit. And then we're going to go to second matrix. I'm going to go over to math. And then I'm going to go up. Maybe it won't let me go up, so I'll have to go down. So notice you have the RREF, which refers to your reduced row echelon form. So that's at 0. And then we're having to type in with the matrix that we put it in. We put our matrix into A. So I need to do second matrix, name A. Press enter. And then it gives you a matrix. So let's go ahead and write this down. Now remember, I said the other day when it has that crazy decimal e to the -15th, that's scientific notation. It's the same thing as 0, because it would be 0.00015 times. So that's really 0. So let's go ahead and write that matrix down on our paper. So when we type this in and we did REF matrix A, which is number 0, we got 1, 0, 0, and then remember that other number was 0. Space that fourth column, 0, 1, 0, and 0, 0, 1. We got a -3 here and a 2 here. So always leave that dotted line in between that last column there. So this tells me that x equals 0. This tells me that y equals -3 and z equals 2. So there's my ordered triple, 0, -3, and 2. Same as all the others, we can easily check it by just plugging those values in for x, y, and z on all 3 of your original equations to make sure that it's true. So this is using an augmented matrix in order to solve your system. Okay, so let's take a look at the back. So there are times when we have special solutions. We've talked about this, no solution or infinitely many solutions. So on the back it says, when solving with augmented matrices a 3 by 3 system of equations with no solution, we'll produce a matrix with a final row in this format. So notice there's no 1 on the first 3 columns. This interpreted as 0x, 0y, 0z equals 1, which really means 0 equals 1. That is a false statement, which means there's no solution. So if I plug it in and I end up with a 0, 0, 0, 0, That is a true statement, which means infinitely many solutions, which means they have every point in common. Okay, so let's look at example 3. Write an augmented matrix to represent the system and then solve it. So I'm doing the same thing that I was doing on the front. I'm going to set up my coefficients: 7, -2, 3, 12, 1, -4, 21, -6, and 9. And then draw your dotted line straight through and put your constants. So I'm going to type that into the calculator. So second matrix, I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to type into A, it's a 3 by 4. And we're typing in 7, -2, 3, 6, 12, 1, -4, 10, 21, -6, 9, and 9. Okay, so once we've typed in our matrix, remember we go back to the home screen. Second, quit. We need to do second matrix, go to math, and then remember it's the 0, so you can just press 0 instead of going all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so we plugged it into matrix A, so second matrix, name A, press enter. And notice this is what we get. So we have a 1 in the top left, we have a 1 in the middle, and then we don't have a 1 in those 3 at the bottom. It's all zeros. Okay, so which means we don't have a Z there. The Z must have canceled out. So notice that we have a 0 and then it equals 1. So let's go ahead and write this matrix down on our paper so that way we can look at it. So this is what your calculator should show. And I'll just round this decimal here. Remember, leave some space for that last number. So all right, so notice we have X, we have Y, but there's no Z here. That actually means look and see what it says. 0 equals 1. 0 does not equal 1, which is false. That means that we have a no solution here. Because that would mean 0x, 0y, 0z, which is 0, and it can't be 1. All right, let's try another example. So we're going to set up our matrix with the coefficients: 1, -1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then your constants: 24, -8, 0. All right, so we're going to type that into the calculator. So I have 1, -1, 1, 24, 1, oh, go back, 1, 1, 1, and -8, and the last one, 2, 1, 2, 0. Go back to your home screen, second quit, and then second matrix math 0, second matrix A. Okay, so let's write this answer down and then we'll talk about it. So I have 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, and 0, 0, 0, and then let me do the dotted. So that's a dotted line there. Sorry, my bad. And then we got 8, -16, and 0. So anytime there's not a 1 in the bottom, you need to pay close attention. There's not a 1 at all, and so you check to see if those are equal. 0 does equal 0, which means infinitely many solutions. So they have every single point in common. Okay, last one. So we have a word problem. I want you to read it and come up with your equation, so go ahead and pause it and see if you can come up with your own equations. And you can come back. And so you should have a variable. It doesn't matter what variable you use, so I'm just going to say C is the chicken breast. I'm going to say P is the number of pasta. And S is the number of sauce. So those are the numbers of servings. Okay, so one of the equations should be 32C plus 7P plus 2S equals 45. The next equation should be 4C plus 2P plus 1.5S equals 10.5. And then the next one should be 41P plus 13S equals 80. Okay, so we have our equations. Now we're going to solve it. So I'm going to set up my coefficients. 32 for, notice there's not a C there. 7 to 41 to 1.5 and 13. And your constants 45, 10.5, and 80. Okay, so we're going to plug this into the calculator. Second matrix, edit. It's a 3 by 4. We're typing it in. That would be 32, 7 to 45, 4 to 1.5, and 10.5. 0, 41, 13, and 80. So second quit, you're doing the same thing, and then this is what you get. So let's write this down. So we got 1, 0, 0. Remember, make some space. That's a 1, and then 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 3. So that's X, Y, Z. So it tells me what X equals, or your C, and then your P, and then your S. So it should be, I'll change those to C, P, and S. So it should be C is 1, P is 1, and your sauce is 3. So just explain what that means. So there's 1 serving of the chicken breast, 1 serving of the pasta, and 3 servings of your sauce. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know.